Welcome back. About a month ago, we went on a road trip with my family. We drove about 3,300 kilometres from Brisbane all the way down to the snowy mountains in Thredbo and then back again. And we stopped at various places along the way. We just wanted to have fun as a family. Today I want to share about my experiences of photographing snow for the first time. Now last year we had gone to Tasmania, we went to Cradle Mountain and we got to experience snow, but just snow falling, not really walking in the snow or anything like that. Because I'd never photographed in the snow, I did a little bit of research, and the one common denominator that I've found in these tutorials that photographers post about photographing in the snow is that you need a polarizing filter. So I said, great, I will take my polarizing filter with me when I go down there. By the way, these are the case filters, and I recently did a review on the case filters and I got to test them out a little bit on the holidays and they were great. When we're going to go in the snow, that I was going to make sure that I took my polarizing filter with me. Now, since this trip was primarily a family holiday and really just to have some fun, my photography was very limited. But when we went to Thredbo, I told my wife, I said, you know, I'm going to try to have a bit of time just so I can get a few images to share on YouTube and also like to remember our trip. Now we got to Thredbo early in the morning and it wasn't blowing too much. It was pretty cool. It was around -8 degrees at the base of Thredbo. And we took the chairlift up to around 2/3 of the way up Mount Kosciuszko at a point of around 1,300 meters. Although it was beautiful, the wind was just howling. There was a coffee shop up there and you could see the wind was just blowing snow off the top of the roof. And it was freezing cold at nearly -14. Silly me, I didn't take enough warm clothes with me. My wife and my daughter, they were prepared. I had gloves on, but I didn't have enough protection on myself to keep myself warm. With the amount of wind blowing around and all the snow blowing around, I told my wife, I said, listen, we'll just go back down. We'll do all the other stuff that we want, and then we'll come back up after lunch. I'll be all geared up and we'll have a great time there. So that's what we did. So after lunch, we took the chairlift and we went back up. And here are some photos that I took. And the one thing that I want to stress is that you can't take enough photos. And then once you get up the top, I can tell you, like first time trying to walk in knee-deep snow at times is just so hard. So forget about a tripod. And when we went, I had 3 lenses with my camera. I've got my Nikon Z6 II here with the Nikon 24-85 mounted on there, the Tokina 17-35 and the Nikon 70-30. And I thought like, well, I don't think that I'll use the wide angle lens too much, so I'll leave the 24-85 on my camera and I'll put these 2 in the bag if I get the opportunity at the top of the mountain to photograph some really different aspects or I want to zoom in. These 2 lenses here will really come into effect. Remember, I've never photographed in the snow, so I went up there with a very open mind. I wasn't putting any pressure on myself. You can see right up the top of the mountain there, that is the top of the chairlift. This photo is really nice. I framed it into a 16:9. You can just see the half moon on the image here. It looks a really nice photo. This image here, I took it in landscape, and later when I got back home, I looked at this image and I kicked myself. I said like, Charles, if you look at this image here, 2/3 of it is unimportant. What is important? What do you think is important in this image? The skiers coming down the mountain. So I've cropped this image to this and it looks great, but it's only half the size of what it could have been. This image here would have been so much better if I had a bit of more forethought and go like, okay, let's just take one in portrait orientation just in case. It's digital. If it doesn't work out, we just throw it out. Lesson learned. Now, as we were going up the chairlift, I noticed this restaurant here. It was all closed up for the winter. I managed to frame this little bush here right towards the bottom of the frame. If that bush hadn't been there, and I took some others without the bush there, and it looked plain because there was just so much snow on the foreground. There was just no detail. This one here with the bush there really turned out great. And as I was getting close to the top, I'd seen there was heaps of rocks on the left-hand side here. But the problem is, a lot of the rocks were in the shade. I quickly saw through my viewfinder that there was just so much shade that it was going to be very hard to make this image a wow image to really grab the audience. I quickly zoomed in and took this image here. This one here really sort of sets it off because you can see there's quite a bit of shade, but the shade is very even. Sometimes when you're out there, look, not just wide angle, but just look at something that could really be catchy. Now, the one thing when I got to the top that I realized was that the mountains were very far in the distance and there was just a lot of snow in the foreground and there wasn't much detail in the snow. I really started thinking hard about my composition. How am I going to frame these images to make them captivating so that there's not a lot of just dead area in the foreground here? You can see here, there's a lot of dead area, but there's a sign there that from the other side, it shows you where the paths are. I tried to frame that, and as I looked at the photo, I could see that there was just this little dot. I looked back through the lens again, and I noticed that it was a hiker just coming down. And I thought, like, okay, I've only got the 24 to 85. I've got the 70 to 300 in my backpack there. But my problem was I had gloves on, and I was around like 30, 40 centimeters in snow, and I thought, like, hang on, this is going to be very dicey. Because as I'm changing the lenses, if I fall over because I'm not very stable, I could damage some gear. I'm not going to change lenses. I just tilted the camera in portrait orientation and took this photo here. This image has been cropped heavily because I'm only using the 24 to 85. If I'd been able to, I could have gotten a much better picture. Look at it. I'm actually shooting downwards and there was no chance at all for me to hike around another 200 to 300 meters very quickly and being able to point my camera upwards so that the hiker is facing upwards on the camera. And I was looking at these rocks that were in front of me. The little branches had snow on them. It looks great. There's just little icicles. It's nice, but I'm looking down at the image. I'm looking down at my subject. I need to change my perspective. What do? I just sat in the snow. I'm right on the ground. I've just got these little branches all covered in snow and ice. It's very isolated because I'm so close to the ground. I was only about this far away from these little branches. I took a few photos of this place. There's a fence, there's a rock down in the foreground here, and I was really trying to get a very nice perspective. When I edited this photo, I looked at it and go like, I just wish I could make it more wow. To me, I don't know about you, let me know in the comments, do you really think that this photo is captivating? It's very sort of a flat image. And this is what you've got to look at when you're photographing snow. You've got to think about that a lot of your photos are going to look flat because there's not much detail in the snow. So when you take photos, think about that you're going to need things that can stand out in your photos so that they don't look just bland. And also think about cropping your image. I explained before that I ended up having to crop a 6x4 into a portrait because I hadn't taken a portrait image. Look at this image here. The beautiful mountain, it looks nice up there, but there's so much dead space in the foreground here. It's not really captivating. I cropped it into a 16:9. I got rid of that foreground. This is the challenge that you're going to face when you're out in the snowfield, especially high up in the mountain, that there's a lot of just bland area. Now, I like photographing panoramas, photographing wide. I took this image here at 24 mils because I wanted all these rocks here. I wanted a nice foreground and I cropped it into a 16:9. I already had that envision in my head and I go like, this is going to stand out so nicely. I looked at this image and I envisioned it as a 16:9 because I put my camera into movie mode. As soon as I go into movie mode, it automatically puts me into a 16:9 frame. So I looked at it and I go like, well, I really don't know. I walked a little bit closer and I zoomed in and took this photo here. Look at the difference between wide and now just focusing on just part of the rocks. Now I've got these rocks, they really stand out. Not saying the first photo wasn't good, but to me, I really want something striking and I want to see a very bold foreground, but I also want people to see the background. And here you can see we've got chunky rocks in the foreground, we've got the snowfields in the foreground, and on the left we've got the mountain covered in snow. In the midground there we've got some mountains and it just keeps going all the way into the horizon there. You can see the open valleys. This is a very striking image. Now, did I use the polarizer when I was photographing the snow? Well, at the start I did, but I also like photographing panoramas, and in the near future, in about 3 or 4 weeks time, I'm going to upload a video of the trials and tribulations that I had photographing panoramas in the snow, because if you thought photographing single images was hard, photographing panoramas in the snow was even more challenging. After the first few images, I took the polarizer off, but I would definitely recommend that if you're just going in the snow, photographing just single images, definitely use the polarizer, because it's going to help you cut all that glare out. Did I have a great time? Absolutely. My family had a ball. Would I do things differently the next time? Well, of course I would, because it would be my second time up there. Every time you do something or you repeat doing it, you learn. So I said, okay, well, it's a lot of bland area. I've got to plan my photography better. Photography is supposed to be fun. You can see I had some good photos, I had some bad photos. I still came home with quite a few very nice images. And that's all that matters to me. I had fun with my family, we had a great day. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, stay safe, enjoy photography wherever you're taking photos, and I'll see you next time.